In today's video, we shall be discussing how to search for a planning appeal decision. So just briefly, we shall require the local authority detail and then make a quick search on Google. So I have selected Havering Council in this instance. So search Havering Planning Appeal, and it will just be this first link here. And then, as we can see here, option 4, Planning Appeal Search. And then we can make an appeal search just by clicking there. And what I've selected here, I've gone back to June 23rd, and you just choose the lodged date and just use the dates in there. And I just chose up to the existing date, the 8th of August. And then just a quick search there. That will bring us to all of the planning appeals lodged between that date period. If we just have a look at what this screen now shows us, we've got the appeal reference, which is all of these in this section. This reference here guides to the initial planning application reference with Havering Council. That would be all of these references here. Then we've got the location of the site, what the proposal was, and the status of the planning decision. What I shall also be undertaking is a case study of a planning appeal decision, and particularly this one here at Judith Ann Court in Upminster. As you can see here, this was to demolish a garage block and to then create 3 new residential flats with new parking facilities and associated landscape. So once again, just to recap, this was the reference number of the original planning application, which was refused. And this is the appeal reference. If we just click there, here we can see the original planning application. And this reference here is the appeal reference with the inspectorate. I will show you later where you can actually download the appeal decision from that website, where specifically you would need this 7-digit number just there. Sometimes, after a planning appeal decision has been made, the local authority will add that document to the original planning application portal. However, it's not always the case. If we just click this link here, we can go back into the original planning decision notice before the planning appeal, just to be clear. Here you can see the reasons given for the original refusal, and a lot of the issues with this application was the impact on this property here, number 1 Westbury Terrace. Now, if you wanted to check to see if the planning appeal decision notice has been added to the original planning application documents, just make sure you're in the original planning application. So that would be this one here, and then you can click this link, View Documents. And as we can see after the appeal decision, Havering Council actually uploaded the appeal decision notice just there. One could just click that link to download the report. Just as a quick reference guide to this particular development, it's actually a block of flats quite near to where I live, so I know this area rather well. Originally, this was the block of flats at Judith Ann Court. And as you can see there, we've just got the ground, first and second floors. The freeholders obtained full planning approval for another level of apartments. That was this block here, and there you can also see the other block as well. That shows part of the original planning application. However, the appeal notice is actually for this area site, which we're talking about. Thus, the freeholders are clearly trying to maximise this site to the fullest. Now, I'm just using my land software here, just so we can see the boundary and layout of this site. So it's specifically this area that the planning appeal is making reference to. And if I just look over here, I can see the appeal documents and original planning application. The planning appeal reference, which there you can see, is the 7-digit code that I've referenced previously. This is just a quick overlay of what the site looks like. Now, just to check for another means of downloading the actual planning appeal decision notice. As I referenced earlier, sometimes the local authorities don't always upload the appeal decision document, in which case all you would need to do is a quick check on Google for Planning Appeal Checker. We would be clicking this first link here, Case Search Appeals Caseworker Portal. These would then be the options that you can choose from. All we actually need is this 7-digit reference here. If we go into the appeal details on the Havering Planning Portal here again, and this is where you would get that 7-digit reference, so 3324551. That is what reference you would just type in there, and you would just click search. And that would just bring us to this screen here. As you can see there, the site address is Judith Ann Court. If we just look here, the status of this planning appeal is complete, with a decision issued, and there we can see this one was actually dismissed. So the applicant was unsuccessful. If one actually want to download the appeal decision document, we would just click this link just here. Moving on, I'll just run through some of the highlights of this appeal decision. So here we can see the individual that undertook the appeal. And as you can see, they were appointed by the Secretary of State. And here you can see the appeal is dismissed, and this will just give some further details of this application. And as we just scroll down here, we can see some of the planning inspector's comments on this notice. And as you'll see, a lot of the problems noted here particularly relate to the neighbour property, which is number 1 Westbury Terrace. It's particularly discussing issues with overlooking and the impact of the proposed new flats on number 1 Westbury Terrace. Just to quickly show you, if you wanted to cross-reference the details of the appeal decision against some of the drawings provided, what you could actually do is go back into the original planning application or refusal, and then again you would just click View Documents. And then what you could have done was to just download the architectural drawings. What the inspector has particularly talked about is the impact on number 1 Westbury Terrace. As we can just see from this plan, and it's this property here that we're talking about. What you can note is this is the existing site layout with just the row of garages there. They were seeking to remove those, and here we can see the proposed site. And this would be the 2 to 3 story block of flats there. The second block area was actually not as high, and it was a reduced height with one less flat on that particular block. And presumably they did that to try to negate the impact on number 1 Westbury Terrace, particularly their garden area, and issues with being overlooked. If you can imagine, that block would be a lot higher than the fence line of their back garden if they'd gone for the same height as this other block segment. What we can also do is just visually understand a bit more with some of these other architectural sketches and drawings. So here we can see the proposed area of this new block of flats. So here you can see the site plan. This shows you the ground floor of the proposed new development, and then we would have the proposed first floor and then the proposed second floor. As you can see there on the proposed second floor, there's not actually a flat on this area here that we were talking about. The applicant obviously knew in advance the impact on the neighbour property would be raised. If we just scroll down a bit further, we can see some more of the architectural sketches. So they've actually done some nice visual drawings of the proposal. I think perhaps this drawing here is probably one of the most telling aspects of this proposal. Because if you can picture here, this is number 1 Westbury Terrace. Even by keeping the second floor level of this proposal without a flat, and just having this first floor flat addition, it's still going to be quite a dominant structure over this property here. It's quite clear, I think, that this would have quite a large negative impact on the occupant of this property. So I think, in fairness to the inspectorate, that seems to be a fair assessment with their refusal. So just coming back to my site boundary image, I guess the freeholders of this site might now be exploring if they could try and provide parking provision elsewhere on the site. Perhaps they could maybe obtain 4 of these garages to convert into a new flat without having a first floor level, which will impact the neighbour property here that the inspector was referring to. I don't know if potentially this area could be another suggestion, but I won't suggest what the owners of this site should do, of course. The other issue that they have to be a bit mindful of, there may well be areas that are designated as communal open space areas for the leaseholders of all of these flats in this development. I'd suggest they've probably already studied all of the documentation on that. I'd imagine the other reason as well, why they've tried to put a first floor flat here, despite it perhaps being a tad unlikely to get approved, is the commercial viability of this proposal. If the scheme was only going to be for 2 flats, perhaps it was not overly commercially viable to go down that road. But anyway, I digress. And this has been an interesting appeal decision, and hopefully you'll agree. That concludes today's video on searching for planning appeal decision notices, and hopefully the case study was an interesting one for viewers. There was quite a lot of fairly bland appeal notices on other smaller applications, but this one in the local area really stood out as a case study. If you do have a development site, plot of land or property that you think might have scope for residential development, please do get in touch, and we can have a consultation and see what ideas can be found. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I do try to provide quite a lot of more detailed case examples where one can actually look at the finer details of planning applications, decision notices and appeal decisions. I've done a few videos now on these different matters, all of which I'll link in the description notes. Also, there will be links to several other planning-related videos that I've done recently to follow shortly. Thank you for watching.